Hey folks, Keith McGowan here. I am the Outboard Dad here to help you have a better boating experience. Today we're continuing on with our two-stroke rebuild, 130 horsepower Johnson outboard, 1999. Yeah, 99 is what we figured. Don't forget my used outboard motor buying guides for sale on Amazon for $20, offering for a limited time a free half-hour session over the phone. If you send me an email with proof of purchase to keith@outboarddad.com, then I'll help you. It's a $250 value with a half an hour phone session to help you with a motor that you're looking to buy or a motor that you're working on. So what are we going to get into today? We're going to get into the heads. I did already check to make sure they were flat and straight, but I want to show you how I do that. We want to make sure they're very clean. All the water jackets around them are clean, and we want to make sure they're flat and even, and of course all those gasket surfaces are cleaned up. So let's show you where we're at. Very similar to actually the exact way we checked the top of the block to make sure it wasn't warped. We're going to check our head. So I have my straight edge on here, and I have my 2000s and my 4000s out. So first I go through with my 2000s. I like to try the smaller one first just to see if I can get it underneath anywhere. So look at that, I can get my 2000s underneath there, and then we'll check with 4, and we cannot get the 4 under there. So we know we're good. We'll check with the 2000s. I can get the 2 underneath there, but I can't get the 4 underneath there. So I know I'm good. So I check it a bunch of different ways just to be sure, right? I can check this way is also with my 4000s to make sure I can't get it underneath there. I do like to do the 2000s just to see where I'm at, see how far it's off, but as long as I'm with 4000s, now I can go ahead and take my file and I can go across this, and I can clean it up a little bit really well, make sure I get it as straight as I can be and measure again, but we're within tolerances. So we have a nice clean head now. We know the surface is ready. Now we'll get those gaskets out and get these heads installed after we clean all the head bolts. We also gave this a really good inspection to be sure that it's clean, right? All of our water jackets around here. We also have water that flows through from our thermostat. So I took my cleaning fluid in my parts washer and ran that through a couple times, make sure it's clean. Also went inside here to any deposits that are in there, cleaned it up so we know we have good flow through this head. Now we'll get them both on there, clean up the bolts, and we'll torque them to spec. Now that we know everything is straight and ready to go, we're going to take a little brake cleaner, and I'm just going to put it on a rag, and I want to go through all of my gasket surfaces. I want to make sure there are no greasy or oily spots, because this gasket is not going to get any sealer on it. Don't put anything on this head gasket. So again, we're just going over it lightly with a little brake cleaner on a cloth just to make sure it's all nice and clean. We're going to do the same thing on the cylinder here. Now I'm going to use my dry rag first, especially around the cylinder top, because we're definitely going to have some oil there, a little bit left over from our rebuild that's kind of got sloshed around. So I'm going to just wipe that a little more, just to make sure there's no oily residue on that area where the gasket has to seal. So we'll clean it all up. Then I'll take a clean spot on the rag, a little more brake cleaner. Definitely don't want to get this on your skin because it really dries out. And we make sure it's all nice and clean. Once we get it all nice and clean, we cleaned all of our bolts. All of our head bolts are clean. Also put a thin layer of oil, a little WD-40 on all the threads here. So I have them lined up here, ready to go and clean. I did run a wire wheel over all of them, just if they had any little corrosion or anything on it. I want the threads to slip nicely so we get the right torque spec. So let's get the head gasket out. Pro Marine head gaskets is what I like about these. A couple of different things. They're good quality gaskets, at the same quality or better than the manufacturer originally spec'd for. And they are a little bit sticky. We're not going to add any. As I said, any sealer goes on a head gasket because we don't want to have it built up, more in one spot than another. It has to be a nice even flush. So has labeled head side. So we make sure that this goes against our head when we install this. Okay, so now we're going to get a couple of bolts started on the top through our head gasket, and we'll go ahead and, well, this is the bottom actually, I'm starting at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and put the bolts in, get it started. And that 2 bolts, make sure I'm lined up properly so my gasket doesn't shift too much on me. And we'll get one in the top here. Again, I'm not cranking them all the way in. Well, I'm cranking all the way in, but I'm not tightening them yet. I want to make sure I get all the bolts in place before I start torquing. And then we'll have to take a look in our book. So let's get all these bolts in here. Then we'll take a look in our book and see what our torque specification is. So as we check here in the manual, we're looking and it says for the 90-degree looper motors, all but for 1992 looper, so that's the only model, we're going to tighten to 25 to 27 Newton meters. So what's pretty cool is there's a sequence in the book, but what I like about some of these motors, you can see right here, this one says number 1, this one says number 2, then we have 3, then we have 4, then we have 5, then we have 6. So we know the pattern to go in to follow, and we'll get these all torqued down. Now, the book says go right to that torque spec. I like to go half first and then the other half. So that's what we'll do. All right, so we got everything torqued up. Both of our heads are on, torqued down to that 25 to 27 Newton meters. So they're ready to go. Everything's covered up now. We don't need to put a clean cover on it anymore. You know, it'd be good to put spark plugs in here, but I don't want to break them off when I'm rigging. So next step is we're going to put all of our electronics on. If you remember, we have a trigger base, then we have our stator, and we left it all kind of wired together. So I'm hoping we can pick it up here. I have all the nuts and bolts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread them out here, clean off a little spot, and I'll spread them out here in the sequence that we need to put that together and get all the electronics, our coils. We have a regulator that goes on here with a gasket that goes on here that gets water cooled. So it's a voltage regulator. So we're going to get all this electronics hooked up and on here, and then we'll work on those carburetors in the next episode. So we'll do the electronics and the carburetors in the next episode. We'll clean those carburetors out one by one and make sure they're spotless. Also, they're plastic bowls and plastic carburetors, so we want to make sure they seal off well. We got some new gaskets for them as well. And then we'll continue on with this rebuild. So please like, subscribe, send me any comments that you have, and let me know what you're working on and if this has helped you in any way. This is coming to the close. We're almost ready to put it on the midsection, but remember, we still have that broken bolt we have to contend with. So that will be after we get the block fully dressed and ready to go. Have a great night.